Yeah, because let's be honest, there's a lot of bullshit out there, right? So a lot of bullshit advice.
Yeah.
So what triggers me is when I'm on Instagram, I'm obviously in this bubble of new age spirituality and coaches and relationship advice and love advice and what have you. And I read a lot of statements about dating, about relationship that include polarity. And it's a narrative that says when you are a man, you need to be more masculine. And when you're a woman, you need to be more feminine. And then you have polarity. And that means your relationship will remain erotically charged.
Yeah.
And everyone is doing the right thing so that you can have this union of the masculine, the divine masculine, the divine feminine. And the relationship advice that follows on how to be more masculine, how to be more feminine, it triggers me because, first of all, none of this applies to me, to us, our lived experience of our relationship. And a lot of it, if we would follow it, it would actually be really shit advice.
Yeah.
Because we have a 10-year-long relationship that had ups and downs like every relationship, but remained erotically charged. And we have a beautiful love life, we have a beautiful relationship. And we continuously grow together, and we don't use any of the polarity chat,
Yeah. So let's,
even though we're tantra.
I know, I completely agree. Let's just slow down. I love this. I love how we've accelerated off of the blocks to 60. Let's slow it down. What is, if someone's listening, what is this polarity
Yeah.
that we're seeing in the social media world?
So there's a big distinction, right? How polarity is used in the kind of new age, neo-tantra scene. It means erotic charge between a man who's very masculine and a woman who's very feminine.
And when we say masculine and feminine, what do we mean by this? If you can just like, is masculine like directional, sturdy, present?
Yeah, that's what you just answered it. Yeah.
Yeah, and feminine is?
Would be slow. It would be like flowy, very emotional, very much in the feeling.
Like spontaneous. I want to do this. I want to do that.
Expressive, creative.
Yeah.
Receptive. Surrender is a big part. Like, allowing the flow of life, the current of life.
And masculine is more like leadership, leading into moving forward, directional, taking action, purposeful, sturdy, emotionally stable.
Holding space, so like holding ground, or like being present with whatever is there.
Abundant with protectiveness.
Yeah, protection, providing.
Providing.
Yeah, containing.
So these are already quite a lot of stereotypes.
Yes, and they have been marked by David Data.
Yeah.
I think in the 80s. And he came up with this concept, which is heavily inspired, people think by Tantra, but actually by Taoism. And he's using these philosophies and these ancient texts, and he's creating these gender stereotypes with that.
And so it comes more from this principle of yin and yang.
Yeah.
Of how having two complementary opposites that work with and against each other to create energy, to create charge, to create a spark.
Yes. So he came up with this theory, David Data, that he said, well, if men are going more into the masculine principle, that is natural to them, and women are going more into the feminine principle, which is natural to them, then we have a perfect harmony because these opposite poles attract each other, and attraction is what we want in a relationship.
Yes.
He says a lot of times that that it's not about the gender, but at the same time, the whole book is about men being more masculine.
It's called How to Be a Superior Man or something.
So he's like, oh, it's separate from your biological gender, which is like, no, it's clearly not. So this book has really been very influential, and it has a lot of good points as well.
Yeah, I like, I've definitely read it and definitely like gone into it, and there are some interesting, that makes sense moments.
Yeah,
for sure, and I do recommend it for people to read, but it's not a scripture, it's not a one size fits all, and it's not basically a formula to how to live your life, in my opinion, because it really forgets a lot of just the nuances of what it means to have a fully enriched experience where everything is possible and nothing is
Boxed in.
boxed in. Okay, so we have this polarity concept that's yin and yang-ish. Well, they take it from this, so you don't need to go too much into the yin and yang, but masculine, feminine, that are complementary opposites that help to create a charge by them being in their poles. So the further you move away from each other in the spectrum of me being more masculine, you being more feminine, it creates more of this inertia in which energy is allowed to be created between the two of us.
Yeah.
So in principle, if two people, a man and a woman, were closer to each other in terms of the polarity, there would be less of this energy
Yeah, exactly.
in the principle of the theory.
And, you know, if you think of a chess play, right? If everyone would be gray, you couldn't have a game. But if one person has black and the other person has the white figures, you have a game. So that is the same idea. And David Data is actually much more nuanced than what we see on Instagram or online in YouTube. Because there is like this really one-dimensional regurgitation, however that word is, of regurgitating of this idea that men should be masculine and women should be feminine. That's what it's reduced to, and it makes me furious.
And I think that's what we're getting a bit triggered by. You are, and I am as well. It's just because we're kind of reverting back to trad world. To traditional world. That's another buzz thing that's popular, but like we're reverting back to the 1950 dynamic, household dynamics.
Yeah, just packaged in some pretty words of like, oh, surrender means like giving up your power as a woman now is then called surrender. It's like, no. And for women to be emotionally immature children is then feminine because we're in our emotions.
Yes.
No. And for men to be like not in contact with their emotions, but just constantly in this like meditative presence, grounded.
I am the rock.
Not expressing, being the rock, it pushes them into a place that I've heard a lot of men suffer from, you know, just like, oh, you're the rock, you know, whatever. Some really harsh thing happens in the family, everyone grieves, the man holds everyone by not going into his pain. And then he just gets reaffirmed by, oh, you're the rock, you're the rock. 10 years in, and some real harsh mental health problems, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you actually also need to process.
The interesting thing about it is, and I love how like these labels kind of take a life of their own, but like, and no disrespect against rocks, but when has it ever been good to be a rock?
Yeah. Do you want to be a rock?
They're fucking, you know, they're kind of like hard, probably quite cold unless it's in the sun all day.
Sounds quite boring.
It's just like, you're a rock. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that shows what kind of man I am, but I'd rather be a flower than a rock.
Yeah, a bit more life, huh?
And I think that's the interesting thing. Okay, so we've got this, I think so we have this kind of it moving into this trad lifestyle. And I want to be quite clear here, and I think we're both on the same page, and correct me if I'm wrong. We don't really mind how people choose to live their life, because it's okay if you want to be that trad type situation where the man is like the stable breadwinner, goes to work, help the parents, when the mom stays at home and look after the kids. That is completely cool. That was my parents. That was my family. You know, my mom, she worked a bit, but spent most of the time raising 4 kids. And my dad he was an entrepreneur, had his own job. And that was the dynamic. It was trad 101. So I'm like, I'm not against that whatsoever. What I am against is the glorification of labels in which are promoted for people to fall into and think that that's how to do it, or that's the option of like, how do I have a better relationship? Oh, I'll pick up this label, I'll step into this box, not really thinking about who you really are, but really just absorbing and borrowing and taking on what I should be to have a relationship that is defined as beautiful or works. Like I should be more masculine. I need to go to the gym. I need to take more control. I need to make bigger decisions. I need to lead. A lot of this is like, it's a lot more pressure.
Yeah, and the danger becomes that it's being performed.
It's the performance.
Because it's like you don't really know yourself and you're looking for an answer on how to make your life work, your relationship work, how to find an identity. And here comes someone and it's like, oh, I've got this mold for you. Here's an identity for you. You happen to have a penis? Great. You know, this is what you should be like. And you're like, oh, great. And then for women, it's the same thing. Like I remember my first tantra teacher training. And it was like, I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be like as a woman. Okay, so I'm supposed to love dancing and singing as my spiritual path. And I'm supposed to, you know, feel more and be more emotional because that's what femininity is like feeling all the emotions. Okay. And some things, because there hasn't necessarily been a discussion I can really remember about what it means to be a woman. You know, there's no like initiation or like rite of passage. Like I remember getting my period and my mom being like, oh, sorry, this is going to be inconvenient until you have perimenopause. You know, so it's like there's no real rule book anymore. You know, my mom was not very much in this. We had reversed roles in my house for a period and then it also reversed back. Just like in your family, actually. You know, your mom is the breadwinner at the end of you know, before retirement. So I think what I'm saying is the classical roles are diluting and changing. So we have all these options, which makes a lot of us quite confused about what path to choose, you know, how to be a wife, how to be a mother, how to be a feminine, you know, a female partner in a heterosexual relationship, and then therefore how to be a man and a dad. And because there's so much option, there's so much confusion. And I love what you said earlier, where it was like, you really want to find out who you are rather than taking on this mold in the name of spirituality on what it means to be a man or a woman.
Yeah, so I think we were looking into the idea of this being polarity being seen as an identity. As a solution to identity in a relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
And what I was leading into was this idea of it's formulaic.
Yeah.
So in this society that we're living in the Western society with, you know, the disillusion of community, tribe, village, where rites of passages exist, and what it means to be a man is up for grabs. Yeah, it's you're kind of out in the wilderness of not knowing what it means to be a man. And so here comes a solution that can be absorbed, that can be applied. So if someone is lost in terms of not knowing who they are, it's kind of a quick fix solution.
Yeah.
However, if we really want to go deeper on a realization, it's not the question of how can I be more of a man or how can I fit into this particular mold of what masculinity is. It's more of a sitting with the idea of who am I?
Yeah.
Like, who am I in my core, my essence? You know, free of the story, free of the construct. Because that's all polarity really is. It's another social construct.
How it's used right now, it's like a gender role packaged into like a glitzy spiritual, you know, container of like, oh, this is now a spiritual thing that you're a divine masculine.
Yeah.
It's just a whole load of horse crap Because if you look at the original spiritual meaning of the divine masculine, divine feminine principle, for example, in Tantra, what you have is something much more complex and actually an explanation of how to find enlightenment rather than how to be a trad wife, right? So you're basically looking at the feminine principle being energy
Yeah.
and the masculine principle being consciousness.
Yeah.
So this is pretty hard to grasp for us little humans, like energy and consciousness. Wow, some big words. And then the explanation is, oh, this is what the universe is made of. That's also quite hard to grasp. And so in Hindu text and tantric text, it's the principle of energy and consciousness, to make it easier to understand for us, is being used in a metaphor as the feminine being a female goddess and the masculine being a male god, right? Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Parvati. But in the end of the day, it's a metaphor for consciousness and energy, which in the end, the union between divine masculine, divine feminine is the dissolvement of all polarity. It's a unified consciousness. It's like a oneness experience. So as a spiritual path, to divide our experience into masculine and feminine only serves the purpose to realize that everything's been always one.
Yeah.
And so sex can be a tool for this enlightenment process. And David Data also mentions it, that if we in sexuality go into these opposite poles of energy and consciousness, not of like male and female, but energy and consciousness, that we then can have the experience of those two merging and becoming one.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be, for example, experienced in a few seconds in the moment of mutual orgasm. And here we're not talking about identity at all. We're not talking about you as a man needing to be masculine or me as a woman needing to be feminine and therefore needing to wear flowy dresses and sing medicine songs. But actually, it's about me or you, it doesn't matter who actually, tuning fully into the energetics of these polar opposites.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a bit more about that?
Yeah, I do. I want to go into there, and I was going to go into this area because this is where polarity actually makes sense.
Yeah.
But I still think we can talk a little bit about that identity bit I want to go into.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay.
Sure.
And so it's like this idea where we've talked quite at a basic level of like, you're the man, you're the woman in terms of that identity.
Yeah.
And then we went on to looking at energy and consciousness.
Yeah.
Energy being feminine, consciousness being masculine.
Yeah.
And then the key point with that is I have both. Mm-hmm. You know, my higher energy centers is my head and my vision, my brain is like a very conscious, focused thing. And then all of my body is very much energy in terms of emotion and in terms of experience. And so I have the polarity both inside me. So I have both masculine and feminine. I am an experience of both masculine and feminine.
Yeah, because the whole universe is.
Because the whole universe is as well. And so this is a concept which is really important, because when we're talking about, oh, this is kind of just like, I suppose, level one, where it's like, oh, I need to be more in my masculine. And you go so far down one side of the spectrum that you might even forget your feminine side as well, your energetic side or your emotional side. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned at the beginning that, you know, David Data also goes deeper into it, which I think is really important to mention, because there is that element of, well, actually, to be a well-rounded individual, a person, I need to be able to play and oscillate and be comfortable in my masculine and in my feminine.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, it basically means that if you as a man haven't owned your emotionality and your vulnerability, and you haven't actually opened yourself to this experience of your own vulnerability, you will never even be able to be in your divine masculine fully. Because to be in your divine masculine, you want to be integrated. You want to be a well-rounded individual on the human plane. And on the human plane, that means for man to be totally in touch with his emotions, not overwhelmed by, not in like a whatever drama response, but aware of his own feelings and able to express them and not ashamed of his feelings from, you know, society and childhood telling him as a man, you're not supposed to feel fear or you're not supposed to be sad or you're not supposed to be any of these things. It's maybe okay if you're angry because it's kind of like a warrior. But apart from that, all other emotions, you know, you shouldn't be you shouldn't have them. So if you still carry shame around your own vulnerability and you think that somehow makes you less of a man and weak, you calling yourself somewhat being in a divine masculine role is just complete insanity.
I find the word divine masculine really triggering.
It's so silly.
I find it really triggering, and
I know.
prefer not to use it actually,
It's
because I don't actually know what it means. I do know what it means, but I do not like it.
Yeah.
It's just a load of crap.
It's just a lot of crap.
You know.
So for the divine feminine.
I don't like divine feminine
Of
either.
course, yeah, I know that, but this is what you read online. I like how we've been talking about stage 1 of the David Data model to divine masculinity and divine femininity. Let's just break down the model quickly. So it's 3 stages. Stage 1 is what we've been talking about. It's the 1950s, and that's where most of the polarity chat online is getting stuck. It's a man who's performing masculinity and not owning his emotions.
Yeah.
He puts a lot of work into being seen as very masculine, not weak. You would say like kind of macho or very patriarchal, where he is performing this hyper masculinity
At the expense of his emotionality.
at the expense of not being connected to his inner femininity and his
what's-
emotions at all.
And what's for a woman? Yeah?
And a woman is then obviously the match for this man, who's a woman who's completely denying her own power.
Denies her
She's
power.
following him. She's not making her own decisions. In the 50s, she wasn't even allowed to make her own decisions, right?
Yeah.
We can drive cars and buy houses
Okay. level
very
1.
recently. Okay, let's start the feminist
I
chat.
had to stop that there. I know where that was going, and I love it. I'm
My
all into
grandma
that
didn't
chat.
have a bank account.
I'm all into
Okay,
that chat.
let's
Summarize.
move on.
Summarize. Level 2.
So level 2 is then the modern kind of first wave feminism, you could say, where it's, or maybe second wave feminism. So it's women wanting equality by trying to be like men. So it's women taking the power back by being men, because what is powerful is what men are. So women try to be like men, right?
In this society.
In this society. So they have the career, they wear the suit, they are the CEO, they make the decisions.
Wear shoulder pads.
They wear the shoulder pads.
Even though that's a look, but it's still.
They cut the hair short or
Yeah.
whatever, have a like all very angular
Yeah. And then the man
to
is.
display
sorry.
their power.
Yeah. And the man then reverts to his indulging in the emotional side of being in flow.
So picture this guy at the beach with the guitar. He's got long hair. He has no responsibilities. He takes no commitments. He's just constantly talking
Goes with
about
the flow.
love. He's going with the flow.
Yeah.
He's like super flaky. He's feeling himself every day. He's processing his emotions every day.
Looks great.
He's looking great. He's adorning his body with tattoos and little mala beads and, you know, wears his beautiful shirt, like the one you're wearing right now. And so in David Data's book, it's like, oh, he's now gone totally into his feminine.
Yeah.
And if these two want to relate, sometimes we see that in couples, in, you know, she's super career driven and super like on it, and he's actually quite soft.
Yeah.
And caring, and these also can actually work. It doesn't have to be bad.
No.
I just recently online read an article about how the soft boy and the woman who's like not in her feminine can't have a relationship, and I'm just like, what? So this is the kind of content that triggers me, because of course they can have a relationship.
Anyone can have a relationship.
They can have great success. And that's what we want to get on later. What actually makes a successful relationship? It's not polarity, guys. So,
Well, we'll talk about that, but yeah.
so that's stage 2. And then stage 3, David Data describes as you can tune into the energy of divine masculinity and divine femininity at will. So you mastered your own energies because you've been the suppressed feminine, you've integrated your feminine as a man, you know, by indulging in it. Now you're well-rounded, you've done it all. And you can now choose to obviously be as masculine as you can. And for me as a woman, I've indulged in the career, I've been successful, I've claimed my power. So now I am going to choose, because I'm a woman, to be in my divine feminine, which means I'm choosing to surrender to my man. Even though I could take the lead, I don't do it anymore because it's my pleasure as a woman to surrender to the lead of the masculine. And then we have polarity.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important because that does add it adds a little bit more complexity to what we've seen, the more nuance.
More nuance like that, yeah, because that's what I see a lot of times. Male coaches on polarity emphasizing this whole masculinity thing without actually really nailing down the vulnerability piece. So
Yeah.
they're skipping the whole part that is the most important, and I think we can transition to that now, for a successful relationship, emotional maturity.
Yeah.
Which means for a man to be able to tune into his emotions and express them and be vulnerable, and for women to be able to contain the intensity of her emotions and not act like a crazy child, which is I've seen in this David data space of women acting like absolute drama queen and being like, he needs to contain my emotionality because I'm on my period and he needs to be able. It's like, if he does that, great, that's lovely. But it's not like it's duty to stand by any kind of crazy bullshit to prove the fact that he's a divine masculine.
Well, that's why we have a lot of, it's interesting because we have the polarity movement, and we also, within the man's world as well, we also have the no more Mr. Nice Guy movement. And so that would be like, yeah, be a rock, but don't be a pushover.
Don't take shit.
Don't take shit. So it's
Yeah.
quite interesting in that kind of different ways of
Yeah.
men, advice for men. And so I think, yeah, I just want to push back a little bit because there is a lot of men coaches and a lot of men's group out there that are very much promoting vulnerability.
Yes.
There's a lot of men who are out there promoting just be more masculine. And there are a lot of people promoting a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting because I feel that in some spaces, while they are promoting in some men's groups work, they are promoting vulnerability, but they're also very much promoting a particular type of masculinity.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the interesting place where we're at, where, you know, the LGBTQI kind of movement is really adding a whole different perspective of what it means to be a person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's quite interesting because we have a lot of information saying, oh, come to the men's group world. It's like, come here and be vulnerable. But at the same time, we still promote this form of masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, we will still promote the king archetype, the warrior archetype. We will still parade and scream and lift up swords and fight. And well, that is good for certain people as well, but that's where other types of community are like, it's just such a snapshot. It's such a label, such a box of what it means to be a human, what it means to be a man, I suppose.
Yeah.
In this modern world where, yeah, it's a script. It's a narrative that we're following. And that's why a lot of men don't. It's like, okay, you're either following that script of wielding that sword in your king archetype, or you don't fit into that.
Yeah.
And that's where other cultures are rightfully so and really beautifully going against that narrative by expressing completely different ideas of what it means to be a man. And I think that's super healthy.
Yeah, I would like to move on to what we can actually apply to relationship and how we apply polarity to a relationship, and also just the pure facts of research of the last 20 years of why this David data chat is not going to save your relationship. What are the markers of a successful relationship, right? One thing is definitely emotional maturity on both sides.
Yeah.
Not this idea that the man needs to be able to contain volatile emotions and the woman is invited to lean into it because that's so feminine of her. Adaptability and flexibility.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we first met, we were in the UK. You had a job that was paying more. You knew everything. I was new to the UK. I was new to the country. So in a David Data sense, we had the perfect polarity.
Yeah.
You were able to lead everything. You knew how the bus works. I didn't even know how to use a self-checkout in freaking Tesco's. Still don't know, actually, 10 years later. So, you had the upper hand in the sense of like leading everything. And it was great.
You loved it.
I loved it. It was fun. I could be, really almost a bit childlike. I was like, oh, I don't even know where we're going, but it's fun. And then we moved to Germany after a year or two, and it was the other way around. You wouldn't speak the language. You did not know.
I couldn't speak the language.
You couldn't speak the language.
I was learning,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah. And, I knew how everything works and how to get to the places that we needed to go and stuff. And yeah, I actually preferred it the other way around, the David Data polarity way. But I don't think would have, we're not happily married and together for 10 years if I wouldn't have had the capacity, which is David Data masculine, to contain my experience of being more in this leading role, right? That's a flexibility and adaptability. It's like, it would have actually been really freaking toxic from me to like expect you, who just completely left everything behind that to be in this leading, super confident masculinity role where you're taking all the actions and have no space to feel insecure about the fact that you can't talk to people at a party.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's the element of flexibility and being able to adapt, and also being able to play different roles.
And it also didn't mean that we didn't have good sex anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. When are we going to talk about how actually polarity helps with sex? Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Polarity helps with sex. And this is the big definition, because we've been going on this conversation really talking about how we don't agree with polarity as a form of identity.
Yes.
As an identity toolkit of how to survive the modern world.
Identity mask.
However, polarity in its essence can relate to, and this is also back to more of a Taoist understanding, can relate to an energetic flow, an energetic energy. I know that's energetic energy, but it's just like energy to move something, and it can be dynamic. And there is that element of how two individuals come together and can have different energies that create
Charge.
Create friction that can translate into, tension, and that sexual tension can relate into a lot of just passion and
I personally don't experience it so much as friction. I more experience it actually as harmonious, because if you look at tango or like any dance, one person is in one polarity, which is the leading and the taking the action and, calling the shots. And the other person is in the surrender, and it's very erotically charged.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So one person is leading, the other person is following. And it's the same in the bedroom, where if you take the BDSM community, if one person is in a sub dynamic and the other person is in a dom dynamic, and in both scenarios, if in the tango, both person would try to lead, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't have, that would actually be friction. That would be really you wouldn't have charge, you would have a mess. In the same way, if both people would try to follow, there wouldn't be a beautiful erotic dance happening.
I mean with tension is like sexual tension, like that,
Right.
like, you know, when it's, because when you have two poles, they kind of pull at each other.
Yeah,
So it's like kind of like this, like, you know.
yeah. Right. Yeah, totally. And
Right.
that's what you get in the dance. You get, if you see two people dancing tango, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, you know, there is this electricity in the air.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of these a lot of these dances are really known for, that it's charged, it's heated. And in the dom sub dynamic, you have the same thing. If two people would like to be a dom and they just command each other out, there's no play, nothing happens, because
No.
a sub makes a dom, right? You need a submissive to have a dominant, and it's the same in sexual tension.
And the same with like massages, you know.
Yeah.
You can't both give a massage at the same time. Well, you can, but like it's
No one
never
receives,
as
yeah.
good as when you just solely receive.
Yeah.
Like when you're both on the couch giving each other both the massage at the same time, it's never as good as when you just receive it by yourself. I think the only way where it doesn't work is probably 69.
But also that sometimes is distracting. But
It is
can be
distracting,
nice.
but I quite like
the
that.
overstimulation.
Because
can be
you
quite
can
nice.
kind of bring down the arousal a little bit, but bring it up at the same time because it's great.
It's
You
true.
get to have your pie
Every
and
time
eat it at
you
the same
tune
time.
into, that's a good analogy. Every time you tune into the receiving part, the arousal goes up. And then if you go into the giving part, I still have the pleasure, but the pleasure is not as intense anymore. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like a play between those two.
yeah. So then,
And you still take turns, I find, in
yeah,
69.
you kind of
right?
like rev up there, then you
and
go
then
there,
you-
take turns.
It's like giving and taking and
Yeah.
receiving and allowing in
Yeah.
all sorts of ways.
And so this form of polarity is important, and it is still in our relationship.
Yeah.
And the key part is that again, this is the beautiful side of it. It's not set in stone.
No.
Like I'm not always in this masculine, I'm leading, I'm dominant in the bedroom, and you're not always 100% surrendering,
No.
passive. This is a combination that works well for us, and it usually is our go-to.
There is a
We usually
yeah.
revert to it, but
Yeah.
even within a intimate moment, we can go back and forth,
Totally.
and it can flip in a second.
Yeah.
And that's the power of like having that ability to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm okay. I actually want to lie on my front, and I want you to lie on top of me and whisper behind my ear naughty words, and I'm like really surrendered.
Yeah.
I'm not leading in that moment. I'm being
Yeah.
submissive. And
Or
it's
even
great.
in a scenario of a blowjob, right? You can just allow and lean back, and I am taking control of what is happening and how it's happening.
Yeah.
Or you can be more active and push your hips towards me, and I'm kind of like passively, you know, surrendering to you dictating like the pace or whatever, the movement. So
This is a great conversation.
yeah.
I'm glad. I bet you everyone's been waiting for this.
So
So this is where it works.
where it works, and to bring this back to classical tantra,
Tantra.
it's the inner union, right? So
Yeah.
kind of similar to David Data saying, oh, once you've integrated the whole principle, the fullness, once you're total in the energies that you can experience and that you can step into, that's when you come closer to this experience of enlightened sex between divine masculine and divine feminine. So if you look at that inside of you with energy and consciousness, it basically means embodiment and the ability to direct your awareness. So if I am, as a woman, which is something that we've been doing for a decade, working on embodiment in the sense of being able to observe my sensations, which is also trauma healing 101. It's fascinating how it all really relates to each other. But what I'm saying here is you're training your focus, your awareness to be with the sensations inside your body. You're widening the capacity for your interoception. And that is a union of your awareness. You were describing like your kind of upper energy center, Taoism, and the lower centers, which is the feeling, observing sensation. So if I'm mastered that and I'm practicing that for myself, and you too, you're using your focus and your awareness to observe your sensations in your body. This is how we can create higher levels of ecstasy, rapture, pleasure in our own system. So if we've been practicing that as a spiritual practice, meditating on sensation, and we come together as a couple and we have created this inner union of consciousness and energy, our sexual experience will be much more elated, much more expanded, and much more, much closer to this experience of non-duality where we can merge, because we've tuned our own ability to go there.
100%.
And then what can happen, and this is what David Data talks about when we use polarity, and it's not described like that in classical tantra, but it is part of a practice. If we then I tune fully into feeling myself, and you're becoming more of the observer, you sometimes even call it like, it feels like almost being in this like godlike state of consciousness, and I'm becoming full pleasure, like my whole like cellular body, like everything just becomes bliss and pleasure and experience and movement and sound, and like I'm just not even really consciously there, I'm just experiencing. So you're observing experience, consciousness is observing energy. This is really hot. This is like,
Yeah, it's where it's at.
this intense sexual tension.
Would we even go so far to say sacred union?
Oh my God, I think it would be definitely ecstasy. So, and if we have this extreme polarization of energies, not of identities, then in the moment of orgasm, or also in the moment of like a kind of blissful peace, we can have an experience of union.
Yeah.
Because you actually become my pleasure as well.
Yeah,
And your consciousness.
I get pleasure by experiencing your pleasure, by witnessing your pleasure.
So you are experiencing pleasure by witnessing my pleasure, and I am having a different experience of pleasure because your witnessing is increasing my pleasure. So we are then starting to merge again.
Well, my like consciousness is allowing you to feel safe to dissolve more.
Yeah. So the more you're present, the more I dissolve. The more I dissolve, the more you become present, and all of that is intensely pleasurable.
Yeah, and I think this is the interesting aspect of it, because it is polarity one-on-one, because I'm leaning, it's not that I'm not feeling the energy, I'm very much feeling the energy, but it's like I'm witnessing it going through me, through you.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting. I'll get to certain points where I'll be like practicing semen retention. So I'm like, ooh, don't want to come, don't want to ejaculate. So it's a very much like the energetics is very much at the forefront. And then it kind of slip into this mode after a lot of breathing and like controlling and breathing the energy up, where I'm actually more in my conscious state, where I'm really just observing and aware of my energy and your energy, but it's like it's not even, I need to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And I just slip into this mode, and I believe that this is the whole
This is what it's about.
the ravaging topic.
The ravishing.
Ravishing, that's it. What did I say? Ravaging.
Just a little different.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of that mode which a lot of people ask about.
Yeah. And David Data, I think, speaks about this whole ravishing topic, right? So he definitely coined a lot of interesting things. It's just been really dumbed down to a level where I think it's harmful in the New Age movement. And what you were describing is really this idea of enlightened sex. So it's like you having a sexual experience with the masculine, the feminine principle as energy.
And consciousness.
And it doesn't matter.
It's not masculine or feminine.
When we're done with that, it doesn't matter if I put my suit back on and you go bring your kids to school, or if you braid yourself a little hair braid and like, put a pearl earring on, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah.
It's so like.
And that's why some people, and this is going to sound completely weird, that's why some people can, some men can dress up as women and wear dresses and then go make love with men and surrender to men, and then have that experience and have a probably really amazing experience, and then go back to their normal life where they're like straight up man.
Yeah, you can create polarity at will because every human can tune into all the energies of the universe.
Yeah.
And they're all available to us. And it doesn't mean that we're not naturally drawn to a certain spectrum of energies within our essence, right? I just enjoy submitting a lot and you just enjoy the other part more. So
For sure.
that's just how we are and that's fine. But I would never recommend my clients who want to have a beautiful relationship to become more masculine, more feminine based on which genitals they have under their pants.
Yeah.
I would always look at the individual and like, what is their essence?
Yeah.
And what is actually true for them rather than what is a mold that I can package to them.
And that goes back to the question of a lot of it is, instead of looking for a formula to fill the question, to answer the question, it's going deeper into the search of who am I? What is that? Yeah, that essence.
Yeah.
That you have in your soul that you're walking with.
And who am I is it's much more in alignment with a lot of spiritual wisdom traditions as a question, rather than, there is not a single description in a tantric text about a woman needing to be more feminine and a man needing to be masculine. It's like telling a cat to be more like a cat as a spiritual path. I don't know if the cat would probably be like, oh, okay.
The cat would be like, I'm a cat.
This is how I'm reaching enlightenment.
What's a
Thanks,
cat?
guys.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, the answer to this who am I question is everything and nothing. And so you're everything.
Yeah.
But you're also nothing.
I would love.
So let's carry on with this idea of the way of what's making healthy relationships last.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the sexual polarity, the energetics of it, not the identity. We talked about being able to adapt and be flexible. And it's not like I always need to be in my masculinity. I also, to have a healthy relationship, it's good for me to be able to be vulnerable and to be not in the leadership and know that my partner is not going to give me a hard time for it.
Yes.
It's not going to be like, oh, you need to man up.
So what I'm often teaching and what I really had to learn and what I'm also teaching my clients is a lot of us women actually have no fucking Scooby how to hold space for a man's emotion because we're so used to making emotions about us.
True.
So we're entitled often to having the emotional part. So in a fight or an argument, I start crying. So then it's about me being upset. So this already takes away your space to just express.
Yeah.
Because I'm there crying. I'm not saying it's bad to cry. I'm just saying I've realized, because I can't really stop myself crying, that I started saying like, hey, I know I'm crying right now and I don't want you to feel bad. I just still want to hear what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Like I'm still here. I'm a very sensitive individual. I cry very quickly, but I actively started to hear you out fully. And obviously I'm also fucking up and I'm not always doing it perfectly. But the question is, when you say, I want an emotional, available man, are you as a woman actually able to be there when he expresses his emotions? And I'm sure some women are. I definitely thought I am and had to face the fact that I suck at it. And that I can be much better in not taking the conversation the moment you bring something that is emotional for you, being like, oh, that really hurt me that you just said this. It's like, yeah, maybe it did, but also you just brought your hurt to me.
Yeah.
So that's very much the opposite of what David Data teaches, or what the polarity bros and girls are talking about. Is like, no, if I want you to be emotionally, if we want to have an emotional mature relationship, it doesn't matter who's got the penis and who's got the vagina. We need to be able to hear each other's vulnerability without taking over the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really big success thing, I think, for a relationship.
And I also find that another point that we can go into is, and you've mentioned it briefly here, is, you know, having this polarity as like a way to fix your relationship. Your relationship's having a tough time. Well, you need to ramp up the polarity to keep
Yeah.
it alive.
Yeah.
When in reality, it can be like your relationship's having a tough time. Maybe you need to look at all the baggage that you have.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to look at like how you, the trauma that you're bringing into the relationship and your partner's trauma bringing into the relationship, and how it's just hitting each other full on speed and just like exploding. And it's like, you know, these situations aren't going to be cured by polarity, but also by, you're gonna have to watch out for your microphone, I think, by healing.
Yeah.
And this is a great thing about a relationship. How can you heal together? A relationship will show your wounds.
Yeah.
It'll show your wounds individually, and it'll show your wounds in relations to attachment. Or how are you going to heal those wounds? Assuming that you have wounds, but let's be honest, everyone has them, mostly. So how are you healing together?
Yeah.
And using this anchor of love to springboard some form of mutual understanding, safety, compassion, and support for both people to heal individually and relationally.
Yeah.
And so me going to the gym and being more masculine and making more decisions might just be a quick fix solution to some real healing that I need to do in terms of my attachment style, or in terms of my emotional trauma that I've had from previous relationships, or you know, there's a inner child stuff. There's lots of stuff that you know can really play into how you're going to have a healthy
Nervous
relationship.
system regulation, all these pieces are much more effective than you listening to the polarity bros. And
we're really going after the polarity bros today, aren't we?
I mean, there's enough women who talk a lot about this stuff as well, and I'm like, oh my God. I think what a successful relationship does is create oxytocin experiences over and over again, right? Like so if you look at, for example, relationship that trauma bonds, where two big core wounds are matching perfectly and they're very painful, that creates a lot of dopamine, that creates a lot of arousal energy, fear-based arousal. It still feels like arousal in the system. And so there is, because of the heightened arousal, it feels like attraction. It feels electric, but it's incredibly painful. And this type of relationship, it can, if you do the healing, become a secure and a loving relationship. But a lot of successful relationships are actually not going after this intense dopamine kicks, but they're much more like a friendship that is based on mutual respect and that prioritizes those pockets in sexual connection, or, you know, having quality time in general. It doesn't have to be sexual. We're having quality time in which you're reaffirming the care and the love for each other. And I think for some people, they think they failed if they're not having this supercharged, sparky, like honeymoon phase kind of sexuality in their long-term relationship anymore. They feel like a failure, even though what they did create is like an incredibly strong foundation, a really strong friendship and teamwork and partnership. And what we love to tell people, it's almost like a secret, hey guys, you can still create the sparkiness and the electricity in those relationships, but you don't have to do that through changing your identity
No.
into being more feminine and masculine, you can create that through energetic practices in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then you have this experience and you do not need to change your whole way of living because of that.
Yeah.
This obviously applies to someone who likes their way of living. And I'm not saying there aren't like career-driven women who've taken on the mold of like, as a modern woman, you need to have the career and the baby and do it all, and then realizing no one can do it all, right? That's a mold. And you might be like, hey, it fits me much better to not be so career-driven. And that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think what you said beautifully is always the question of like, what's my essence? Who am I? How do I want to relate? Rather than taking these quick fixes.
Yeah.
Because they get exhausting. If you're performing femininity for your partner and he's performing masculinity for you, like what kind of relationship is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I always love the, in terms of relationships, in healthy relationships, in relationships that last, and it's a bit of a harsh one, but it's like, do you love the person for who they are, accepting them, or are you always wanting them to change?
Yeah.
Are you in love with someone who they could be? Oh, I can see a little bit of this. We have this chemistry together. Oh, if only he was more like this. You know, and this is when you get a lot of passive aggressive comments, a lot of slating, a lot of like nagging, a lot of bashing. And it's like the healthy relationships are like, and you can even see it with your friends. It's just like you have a healthy relationship with a friend and you just love them for exactly who they are.
Yeah.
And you're not wanting them to be anything else. You just appreciate them for who they are. And in that, you have the safety to, like, you know, if they do something that pisses you off, just to say that, oh, that was a bit of annoying.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to change them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a fascinating one, right, for humans, because if we come from a foundation of not loving the other person fully, change is actually quite hard for the other person. But if we're coming from a place where we really see them and accept them fully, and we see their higher potential, change often just happens naturally.
Yeah.
You know, if you see the best in someone, they will automatically strive to be this best version.
Yeah.
But it comes from a really different place. Because what I hear, women have a really low threshold of like women talk quite negatively about men without batting an eyelid. Like I've not ever heard men talk like that much about women, how women talk about men, you know? So it's like,
I don't know, go to Andrew Tate's following.
yeah, of
pretty
course,
horrific.
there's like a lot of misogyny, hate. But if I look at my circle of friends,
Yes, of course, yeah.
like women I feel much more entitled to talk shit about men than men do.
Yeah, I've overheard many conversations where it's like, if it was the other way around, I would be ostracized from the group.
Yeah.
I would be like, you're sexist. Fuck
Yeah,
off.
you can't say this. And
There's a big history though, you know.
Of
but
course,
doesn't
of
mean
course.
it's better.
But it's like, I don't even know why I'm gotten to this topic right now. But I feel it's important to mention.
Accepting, loving,
Having a successful relationship. I think it's important. This is something I share with my clients. It's like, if you say, oh, I love him, he's great. If he would just get a better job and like get a bit more tidy and like wear different clothes and, you know, create a bit more polarity, is the same thing as he would say to you, like, oh, I love you, you're really perfect. If you would maybe change the color of your hair, get a lip job, and maybe a bigger ass, you know, perfect.
Yeah.
Already, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, if a man would say that, you'd be like, what a fucking asshole.
I know, completely.
And if a woman can walk around and be like, oh yeah, you know, he needs to like dress a little bit more like this or be a bit more like that. It's just like, fucking hell.
I read this email the other day from like a coach, relationship coach for women, subscribed to it. And it was like, if your man doesn't have money, he shouldn't be your man.
Yeah.
And it was all about how men need to have money. And you know what, I just like, that person has no idea about love.
No.
Because it's like, you know, if you're only with someone because they have money, because they provide for you or they protect you, then that's your need. That's your bullshit.
And I happen
You know what I
to-
mean? It's like,
Yeah.
protect yourself.
And I happen to know the person you're talking about, and I know for a fact that she just attracted a lot of men who had less money than her. And now, you know, and it's so interesting if you know people personally in this coaching industry.
Yeah.
And like people who've had a lot of relationships with men who've been taking advantage of their financial situation are then becoming these women who like, if he's broke, da, 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 da. Like if I would have behaved like that, like, imagine I would have broken up with you every time you had less money than me. You
We
know?
wouldn't be together.
We wouldn't be together. And it's like, I wouldn't have the best relationship of my life. I wouldn't be with my soulmate if I would had taken this bullshit advice. And it also says, if you do this further, right, a man has to provide because of polarity. So he has to have more money than you, equals if a man has less money, he's automatically not as good as a partner. So every man who has more money equals is a better partner. There are so many men in this world who have a lot of money who I wouldn't touch with a freaking, you know. I mean, imagine.
barge pole,
Does
I
that
think is the right
mean
term.
that Donald Trump is a better man to go out with because he's
Yeah.
got more money?
Yeah.
Like, you try that.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Because there's other forms, like this financial security. Yeah, financial security is all right. But, you know, there's emotional security.
Yeah.
There's resilience. There's also just a thing called being a good person, compassion and love. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I just think it's like
There's
such shit.
there's
It's
generosity.
such bullshit.
There's generosity of the wallet. There's also generosity of the heart, you know?
Yeah.
Someone can be incredibly generous with acts of kindness towards you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, it's really fascinating how spirituality, new age spirituality, gotten somehow onto this thing of like, I've had the same thing.
It's not even spirituality because TLC have been talking about I don't want to get with no scrub for a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good point, yeah.
and it's just this thing, and you know, there's a reason why men just work really hard
Yeah.
to provide because it is an asset, it is a thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, men are, I'll just go to work, and then they're like, how am I supposed to look after these babies? And then the man's like, well, how am I supposed to provide for you? It's a really difficult situation, and you do kind of fall into this. You do fall into the structure that has been there for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think in an ideal world, it's a bit of both.
Teamwork.
I have money, you have money, I have time, you have time
Yeah.
to commit.
If you want to see your kids growing up, I don't think it's really useful for you to be the sole provider who's just completely in these gender roles. The thing is, you can choose. This is the interesting thing in our modern times. You can choose. And it's not bad for a man to be fully working, but I actually love my job so much that I know if we would have kids, I'd be really glad that I could do a 3-week retreat and I would know you would be on site looking after the kid because you can. So yeah, it's just really finding out who you are and what works for you. I want to close this.
Have we talked enough about the successes of a good relationship?
I think so.
Great.
I want to read a sutra from the Sakti Sangama Tantra, from the Tantric Shaivism, that puts the feminine principle into a really beautiful, beautiful verse. And it also puts into perspective what the feminine principle is relating with the male principle. Woman is the creator of the universe. The universe is her form. Woman is the foundation of the world. She is the true form of the body. Whatever form she takes, whether the form of a man or a woman, is a superior form. And woman is the form of all things, of all that lives and moves in the world. There is no jewel rarer than women, no condition superior to that of women. There is not, nor has been, nor will be, any destiny to equal that of women. There is no kingdom, no wealth to be compared with a woman. There is not, nor has been, nor will be any holy place like unto a woman. There is no prayer to equal a woman. there is not, nor has been, nor will be any yoga to compare with a woman. No mystical formula, no aesthetics to match a woman. There are not, nor have been, nor will be any riches more valuable than women. And that's the feminine principle, which is the superior form, whether it's in a man or a woman.
Yeah, it was like the woman is the universe,
Yes.
and every human is the universe. So therefore, all of it's inside of us.
Exactly. So universe, yeah, it's like the path of the goddess is that.
Yeah.
And it's a tradition that follows the path of the goddess in many aspects. There's also obviously a really big part of Tantra that is realizing that everything is consciousness, but it's like everything is consciousness and energy, right? So this sutra is much more about how women is energy and how women is manifestation of everything.
Mm.
Yeah, and I just really like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, yeah, I think this wraps up this conversation. So, polarity has a lot of downfalls when it comes to it being an identity. However, still very important when it comes to energetics within a bedroom. Sexual charge.
Yeah.
It's not fixed. So, polarity within the bedroom can be dynamic in terms of swapping and moving and ever shifting, but it's important for there to be a form of polarity for things to work.
Should we give them the yin and yang game as a way to practice polarity? So what you can do if you want to explore being in your masculine or yang energy and being in your feminine yin energy is that you can play the yin and yang game, which comes from Margot Anand from Sky Dancing Tantra. And she has created this game and it's brilliant. It basically means that you take a certain time frame. So let's say Patrick and I do it, for example, for tonight, the next 3 hours until we're back home, it's my yang night. And I'm, as the women, are taking the masculine principle, right? I'm doing the yang thing, which means that I will take all the decisions and I will use complete my power for complete leadership of the next 3 hours. So you can play this however you like to, but you are experiencing yourself as the leader, and you will find out if you're a benevolent king or not. So the aim is not to mock the other person or take advantage of them. It's to find out.
It's fun.
That's a different game.
It's a date.
It's a different game. You know, you can play that game as well if you're into it, but that's a different game. It's finding out how you can, with your decisions, expand the other person the most. So I will pick activities and make choices for Patrick that I know will delight him. Sometimes I'm wrong, that's okay. But it can look like I'm choosing what he's going to wear, then I'm going to choose where we go, then I'm going to choose what he eats, then I'm going to choose where he drinks, then I'm going to choose where we go next, then I'm going to choose how he touches me, then I'm going to choose that we go home, then I'm going to choose what we do at home. That could be.
And I go with the blue.
And Patrick.
I just sit there and experience the experience trying to expand instead of contract.
Mm-hmm. Patrick is practicing receiving, surrendering to guidance. So he's experienced his most yin form.
Yeah.
And he can practice to surrender. And then, next week we swap. And it's Patrick's yang night. And he's going to make all the decisions. Mm-hmm. And I can experience my surrender and he can experience his leadership.
Have fun with it. Mm-hmm. It's fun.
It's beautiful. I even choose where we cross the road when I do this with Patrick because he thinks I'm a lunatic crossing the road. So I'm like, take a sign. I'm like, we're crossing now. Let's go. So yeah, you're really inviting the other person.
One time we did it, the bartender came up and was like, looked at me, was like, would you like another drink? And I was like, you're gonna have to ask my wife. He just like looked at me, was like, oh my God, okay.
So yeah, you can have a lot of fun. Or Patrick was vegetarian, and I know that he really wanted to eat some meat, but he obviously was vegetarian at that time, so he would have never. So in my Yang night, I ordered him some pork.
It's delicious. I expanded into the situation.
It was funny.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. Let us know how it goes, and if you have any questions about it, ask us.
Absolutely.
Ask us.
Have fun, explore.
Be yourself.